Welcome back to Secrets Exposed. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. You're the reason these stories worth sharing. Tell us where you're watching from, city or country. We're amazed by how far these tales reach. To get daily new and amazing stories for you, subscribe our channel and press bell icon. All right, let's begin. The night air was still when Daniel Cole pulled into the driveway of the house he once called home. The Jeep's headlights cut across the weathered siding, exposing chipped paint and weeds curling up through the concrete. He hadn't been back in months. Work had taken him away. Long hours, late nights, trying to provide from a distance. But nothing could have prepared him for the silence that greeted him now. He turned off the engine, sat for a moment, and listened. No laughter, no footsteps, no sound of cartoons echoing from inside. Just silence. A silence that pressed against his chest heavier than the years of absence. With slow steps, he crossed the porch and unlocked the door. The hinges groaned as if even the house resented him for leaving. A faint smell lingered in the air, stale beer, cigarette smoke, and something else, something sour that made his stomach tighten. Then he saw it. In the dim glow of a single lamp left burning in the living room, a small figure moved across the floor. Not walking, crawling. Lily. His voice cracked, sharper than he meant it to be. His daughter froze mid-movement. Her tiny hands, red and raw, pressed flat against the hardwood. Her knees dragged awkwardly, leaving faint smears where skin had scraped. Slowly, she lifted her face toward him, eyes wide, cheeks stained with dried tears. "Daddy." Her voice was a whisper, thin and trembling. Daniel's chest caved. He rushed forward, kneeling beside her. "What are you doing on the floor? Where are your crutches?" His eyes darted around the room, searching the corners, under the couch, anywhere. But they weren't there. Not even tucked away, not forgotten. They were gone. Lily looked down, ashamed, as though crawling had been her choice. Her lip quivered. I try to get to my room," she said softly, her words breaking apart. Daniel slid his arms under her, lifting her carefully. Her body felt lighter than it should have, her arms clinging to his neck as though afraid he'd disappear again. His eyes scanned her, scraped palms, a bruise blooming on her elbow, the faint tremor in her shoulders. The house around them was stripped of warmth. Toys missing from shelves, blankets folded away, the air heavy with neglect. It was as if someone had decided her comfort didn't matter. Daniel swallowed hard, pressing his cheek against her hair. "Where are they, sweetheart?" he whispered, trying to keep his voice calm though fury gnawed at his chest. Her answer came like a knife. "Gone." Just one word. A word so final, so broken, that his jaw locked. He pulled back, holding her face in his hands. Her blue eyes searched his, desperate for reassurance, desperate for safety. Daniel wanted to promise her everything would be okay, but the truth was staring at him from the bruises on her knees. Something terrible had happened here. As he rocked her gently, trying to soothe the trembling in her body, his mind spun. Where were the crutches? Why hadn't Monica, his ex-wife, said anything? And why did his little girl look as if she'd been crawling for far longer than a few minutes? The silence stretched, heavy, suffocating. Then, faintly, Daniel heard the tick of the hallway clock. Each second pounded in his skull, louder and louder, until he realized this wasn't just neglect. Someone had done this deliberately. He kissed the top of Lily's head, his grip firm. A vow already formed inside him, even before the words left his mouth. This wasn't ending here. Not tonight. Daniel carried Lily to the worn-out sofa, the springs creaking under their weight. He set her gently on the cushion, crouching low so his face was level with hers. His calloused hands brushed the damp strands of hair from her forehead. Her eyes darted nervously around the room, as if expecting someone to burst in at any second. That alone told him enough. His little girl wasn't just hurt, she was afraid. "Sweetheart," Daniel said softly, his voice steady though his chest burned. "Tell me what happened. Where are your crutches?" Lily hesitated. She pulled her hands into her lap, palms raw and pink from scraping the floor. Her lower lip trembled as though she was holding back tears, not because she couldn't cry, but because she'd already cried too much. I don't know," she whispered at first. But Daniel recognized the pause, the way her eyes avoided his, the way her small fingers twisted the hem of her shirt. She knew. She just couldn't say it. The living room felt colder now, its shadows stretching longer as the lamp flickered. Daniel glanced around. The place looked different from when he'd last been here. The photographs he remembered, family shots of Lily smiling on her birthdays, were gone from the mantel. Instead, empty spaces collected dust. The small bookshelf that once held Lily's favorite bedtime story stood bare. It looked less like a home and more like a place hollowed out. "Lily," Daniel said, his tone firmer, though still gentle. "I need you to be honest with me. Did someone take them?" Her eyes flickered toward the hallway, toward the door to her mother's bedroom. Then she pressed her face into his chest and shook her head. The movement wasn't a denial. It was fear. Daniel tightened his arms around her. His pulse roared in his ears. Whoever did this wasn't careless. It wasn't an accident. This was cruelty, targeted and deliberate. "All right," he whispered, stroking her hair. "You don't have to tell me right now. I'm here. I won't let anyone hurt you again." The promise came out stronger than he expected, like steel wrapped in softness. But even as he spoke, his mind flashed with questions. Why hadn't Monica called him? How long had Lily been forced to crawl like this? And what kind of man looked at a child who needed help and thought it was acceptable to strip that help away? The ticking clock in the hallway grew louder again, mocking him. A sudden chill swept through the room. He stood, still cradling Lily, and moved toward her bedroom. He hadn't seen in months, and when he pushed the door open, his gut twisted. Her bed was bare, the blanket threadbare and thin. The small stuffed animals she once clung to were gone. A single pillow remained, flat and torn at the edges. Her nightstand, where she used to keep her drawing pencils, was empty. The walls themselves seemed to mourn, their pastel paint chipped and peeling. Daniel crouched and set her on the bed. She curled her legs up, hugging them close, though it looked painful without support. Her eyes followed him like a shadow. "Who did this?" Daniel asked again, his voice sharper now, anger pressing through. Lily's lips parted, her breath shaky. She swallowed hard, then closed her mouth again. She wouldn't answer, but her silence screamed louder than words. Daniel stood frozen in the doorway of her room, fists clenching at his sides. His daughter wasn't safe here. He knew it now, beyond any doubt. And though Lily didn't say who, Daniel could already feel the shape of the answer pressing at the back of his mind. He looked back at her, this fragile little girl forced on her hands and knees, stripped of dignity. A heaviness pressed onto his chest, a familiar weight from his time away, the weight of knowing something had to be done. He whispered to himself, low and cold, almost a vow. "Not in my house. Not to my daughter." The house was silent again, but now the silence wasn't empty. It was charged, waiting like the hush before a storm. The night deepened, shadows pressing against the windows as Daniel sat on the edge of Lily's bed. The faint hum of a distant television echoed from the other room, proof that Monica was awake, but nowhere near them. He wanted to storm down the hall, demand answers, but one look at Lily's trembling body kept him rooted in place. She lay curled on the thin blanket, small fingers clutching the edge as if holding onto a lifeline. Her breathing came shallow, uneven, her gaze fixed not on him but on the far wall. Daniel reached out, brushing his hand gently along her arm. "Sweetheart, I can't help you if you don't tell me." His voice carried no anger, only steady warmth. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then, her lips parted. Her words came so quietly that Daniel almost didn't hear them. "Mom's boyfriend, he took them." Daniel froze. Every muscle locked. Her voice cracked, and she turned her face toward him, eyes shimmering with tears. "He said I should learn to crawl like a dog, that it would make me tougher." The words hit Daniel like a hammer. He closed his eyes, trying to keep his breathing steady. His jaw ached from the pressure of his teeth grinding together. He wanted to roar, to tear through the house and drag the man out by his throat. But Lily's fragile fingers pressed against his sleeve, anchoring him. "He sold them," she whispered, almost ashamed, as if she'd done something wrong. "I heard him on the phone. He said crutches don't make money, but the metal parts do." Daniel's stomach lurched. He opened his eyes and saw her face, small, innocent, and yet marked by the cruelty of someone who should have protected her. No one should ever. His voice cracked. He stopped, inhaled slowly, then spoke again with quiet conviction. No one will ever make you crawl again. Do you understand me? Lily nodded, but her expression was still shadowed. He said Mom wouldn't care. Daniel's throat tightened. That line, those 4 words cut deeper than anything else. He wanted to deny it, to tell her it wasn't true. But he had seen the missing toys, the stripped shelves, the look in Monica's eyes earlier. She had known, and she had stayed silent. The television clicked off. Footsteps echoed down the hallway, slow, deliberate. Daniel turned, body stiffening as the doorknob rattled. The door opened a crack. Monica's face appeared, her hair tousled, her eyes narrowed. "What are you doing in here?" she hissed, her voice sharp, defensive. Daniel rose from the bed, his frame towering over her. "Taking care of my daughter," he said evenly, though every word carried the weight of thunder. Monica's eyes flicked past him to Lily. "She's fine," she said quickly. "You're overreacting. You always do." Daniel stepped closer, his shadow swallowing hers. "Where are her crutches?" For a heartbeat, Monica faltered. Her eyes darted, lips pressing into a thin line. Then she forced a laugh, brittle and empty. She lost them. Kids misplace things all the time. Daniel's stare cut through her, unblinking. He didn't need Lily's testimony again. Monica's lie said enough. Behind him, Lily's small voice broke the silence. "He sold them." Monica stiffened. Her mask cracked for a second, just a second, but Daniel saw it. The truth lived in her silence. He turned back to Lily, kneeling at her bedside once more. His voice softened again, though the storm still raged inside him. "It's all right, sweetheart. I believe you." Her small hand slipped into his, clinging desperately. For the first time since he walked in, Daniel saw a flicker of relief in her eyes. But relief was not enough. Not when a man who mocked his daughter, who stole her dignity, was still under this roof. Daniel looked back at Monica, his voice low, steady, and dangerous. "This ends tonight." The room fell silent. Monica's lips parted, but no words came. She stood frozen in the doorway, trapped between fear and denial. And in that silence, Daniel knew the storm wasn't just coming. It had already begun. The house held its breath. For a long moment, Daniel and Monica stood locked in silence. Lily's soft sniffles the only sound between them. Monica's arms crossed tightly over her chest, her painted nails digging into her skin as if holding herself together. Then the sound of keys jingling broke the stillness. The front door swung open with a heavy thud, followed by uneven footsteps and the faint stench of beer wafting through the hallway. Travis Hale had arrived. Daniel's shoulders stiffened instantly. His instincts sharpened, the same way they used to before a fight he couldn't avoid. He heard Travis's voice before he saw him, loud, smug, with a mocking laugh tangled in his words. "Monica, you won't believe the deal I got tonight." His boots clomped on the hardwood as he tossed his jacket carelessly onto a chair. Then he appeared in the hallway, his tall frame filling the space. His brown hair was messy, his shirt untucked, his eyes glassy from drink. And then he saw Daniel. For a split second, his grin faltered, but it returned just as quickly, smug and sharp. Well, look who decided to finally show up. Daddy of the Year." Daniel said nothing. He stood solid, arms crossed, gaze fixed on the man who had taken his daughter's crutches. Travis smirked wider, stepping closer. "What's the matter? Don't like the way we run things here? Maybe if you were around more, you'd understand." Behind Daniel, Lily whimpered. He felt her clutch the back of his shirt from the bed, hiding her face. That sound alone almost broke him. Daniel's voice came low, steady, dangerous. "You made her crawl." Travis raised a brow, then let out a sharp laugh. "Oh, come on. Don't get so dramatic. She's got to learn. World doesn't give out crutches forever." He leaned casually against the doorframe, his grin widening. "Besides, scrap metal gets a decent price these days." Daniel's fist clenched so hard his knuckles whitened. He wanted to strike, to silence the smirk on that man's face forever. But Lily's hand still held his shirt. He forced himself to stay still, his anger folding inward, waiting. Monica shifted uneasily, her voice small. "Travis, maybe this isn't the time." But Travis cut her off with a sneer. "Don't defend him. He abandoned you. I'm the one here, paying bills, making sure this place doesn't fall apart." Daniel stepped closer, his frame towering over Travis now. His voice dropped, quiet and sharp as broken glass. "You made my daughter crawl. You looked her in the eye and told her she was a dog." For the first time, Travis's smirk flickered, just slightly, but he quickly masked it with a scoff. "She's exaggerating. Kids make things up." Daniel's eyes burned with fury. He leaned in, his voice a whisper only Travis could hear. "Say it again. Say she's lying while she's right there listening." Travis's eyes darted past him to Lily, who peeked out from behind her father. For the first time, his expression cracked. He looked away. Monica's silence filled the room like poison. She didn't defend her daughter. She didn't deny the truth. She simply stood there, lips pressed tight, eyes avoiding everyone's. Lily's voice broke through the tension, trembling but clear. "He's lying, Daddy." He said it. He laughed. The words seemed to echo, heavier than the walls could hold. Daniel turned his head slightly, enough to see Travis's face pale. In that moment, Daniel knew two things with crystal clarity. Travis had no remorse, and Monica had no courage to stop him. The storm inside Daniel no longer raged aimlessly. It had a direction, a purpose. He stepped back, his hand resting gently on Lily's shoulder. His voice was calm, almost unervingly so. "This ends tonight." Travis's laugh rang out again, forced this time, brittle at the edges. "What you gonna do, tough guy? Huh? Take me on? You're not as scary as you think." But Daniel didn't rise to it. He simply looked at Lily, then back at Travis. The calm in his expression was more terrifying than any anger could have been. The air between them grew heavy, thick with a promise unspoken. And in that charged silence, the night shifted. Something had begun that could not be undone. The tension in the living room was suffocating, heavy like a storm that refused to break. Daniel stood unmoving, his body a wall between Lily and the man who had stolen her dignity. Travis shifted in place, his bravado flickering, but his smirk stubbornly stayed, as if clinging to power he didn't deserve. Monica broke the silence first. "Daniel," she said quickly, stepping forward, "don't make this worse. She's fine. You're overreacting." Daniel turned his head slowly toward her, his stare piercing. "She's fine." His voice was low, controlled, but his words dripped with disbelief. "You think a child crawling on her hands until they bleed is fine?" Monica flinched, eyes dropping to the floor. Her fingers twisted the hem of her shirt, restless, guilty, yet unwilling to admit the truth. Travis chuckled, running a hand through his messy hair. "You're too soft, man. That's your problem. Always was. Life's tough. She needs to toughen up. I'm just doing what you're too weak to do." Lily whimpered at his words, shrinking deeper behind Daniel's leg. Daniel felt the tremor of her fear against him, and something inside him snapped, not into chaos, but into clarity. He stepped closer, his frame towering. "You don't get to talk about her like that." His voice didn't rise, but the weight of it pressed into the room like thunder. Travis scoffed, but Daniel saw it. The twitch in his jaw, the slight falter in his posture. He wasn't invincible. "Daniel, stop," Monica said, louder this time, panic creeping into her tone. "You can't just come back here and—" Daniel spun toward her, fury flashing. "And what? And protect my daughter? Because clearly you didn't." The word struck harder than any blow could have. Monica's face flushed, shame and anger warring in her expression. She opened her mouth, but no defense came. Travis, sensing her silence, tried to reclaim control. "She's mine now, Daniel. You walked away. You left her. You left Monica. Don't come crawling back thinking you can play hero." The word crawling lingered in the air like poison. Daniel's fists clenched. He could almost feel the weight of his anger pressing him forward, begging for violence. But then Lily's hand tugged at his sleeve again, her small fingers trembling, anchoring him to restraint. He looked down at her, into those wide, tear-filled eyes. And in that instant, Daniel knew rage wouldn't save her. Action would, but smart action, not reckless. He crouched, bringing himself level with Lily. His voice softened, calm and certain. You're safe. Do you hear me? No one will ever make you crawl again. Her lips parted, a whisper escaping. Promise? Daniel nodded, his hand steady on her shoulder. Promise. When he stood again, his calm was unnerving. He looked straight at Travis. You don't belong in this house. And after tonight, you won't be near her again. Travis barked out a laugh, but it rang hollow this time. Big words. What's your plan, huh? You gonna call the cops? They won't believe you. They'll believe Monica. And she knows who pays the bills here. Daniel's gaze flicked to Monica. She swallowed hard, unable to meet his eyes. The truth was written in her silence. She wasn't going to stand up for Lily. She was going to stand by Travis. And that betrayal cut deeper than Travis's cruelty ever could. Daniel's voice dropped, cold and final. Then I'll make them believe her. I'll make them believe me. One way or another, this ends tonight. For the first time, Travis didn't laugh. His smirk faltered, just slightly, as if sensing that Daniel's calm wasn't weakness. It was resolve. The house seemed to shiver in that moment, the air thick with a promise of what was coming. Lily clung tighter to her father's hand. Monica turned away, retreating into shadows she couldn't escape. And Travis, still posturing, still smug, didn't see it yet. But the storm was moving closer, and there would be no shelter when it hit. The house settled into an uneasy quiet, the kind of silence that comes after lightning but before thunder. Daniel didn't move from where he stood, his body shielding Lily. Across from him, Travis leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, smirk still plastered on his face, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. Monica lingered near the kitchen doorway, her back half-turned, pretending to busy herself with a glass of water. She didn't drink. She didn't even lift it to her lips. She just held it there, as if avoiding the reality breathing in the room with her. Daniel bent slightly, scooping Lily into his arms. She clung to his neck, her cheek pressed to his chest. He turned toward the door. Where do you think you're going? Travis's voice cut through the stillness. Daniel didn't stop walking. Away from you. Travis scoffed, but the sound wavered. You think you could just walk out with her? Monica won't let that happen. Courts won't let that happen. At that, Monica finally spoke, her voice sharp but shaking. Daniel, don't start this. You'll make things worse for everyone. Daniel spun toward her, eyes blazing. Worse? Worse than watching our daughter crawl across the floor because the man you chose sold her crutches. Monica flinched, her lips parting, but no defense came. Her silence spoke louder than words. Daniel turned back, stepping toward the door. Lily shifted in his arms, her voice small but insistent. Daddy. He paused, looking down at her. Her hands fumbled with the strap of her school bag that hung from the sofa. Wait, I need to show you something. Confused, Daniel set her gently on the couch and reached for the bag. Lily's small fingers pulled at the zipper, revealing a scratched, slightly battered tablet. She hugged it to her chest for a moment, almost as if afraid to hand it over. Then she whispered, I kept everything. Daniel's brow furrowed. What do you mean? She powered it on, her hands trembling. The screen flickered, and then a shaky video appeared. It was grainy, filmed from a corner of her bedroom. Travis's voice filled the room, loud and mocking. You don't need these. Crawl. Crawl like the little mutt you are. Maybe then you'll learn. The camera shifted slightly as Lily sobbed in the recording, dragging herself across the floor. The sound of Travis's laughter echoed cruelly. And then Monica's figure appeared in the doorway. She didn't intervene. She didn't stop him. She just stood there, arms crossed, watching. Daniel's stomach turned to stone. His fists clenched so tight his nails cut into his palms. Travis pushed off the doorframe, his face paling. That's nothing. She's twisting it. Lily swiped again, another video playing. This time, Travis was on the phone, waving her crutches around. Yeah, the metal's good. Kid doesn't need him anyway. Hell, she should crawl, builds character. The sound of Monica's voice in the background froze Daniel's blood. Just don't let him find out. Daniel's chest heaved as the truth burned its way through him. This wasn't just Travis's cruelty. Monica had known. She had been part of it. Travis lunged forward, his hand outstretched toward the tablet. "Give me that." Daniel stepped between them, his voice sharp and cold. "Don't touch her." For the first time, Travis hesitated. His hand hovered midair, then slowly lowered. His smirk was gone now, replaced by something harder, nervous calculation. Lily clutched the tablet to her chest again, her small body shaking. "I saved it, Daddy. I didn't know what else to do." Daniel crouched, placing his hands gently on her shoulders. His eyes softened, voice steady despite the storm inside him. "You did the right thing. You were brave." Her lower lip trembled, but for the first time, there was relief in her eyes. He stood again, turning his glare back to Travis. The calm in his tone was terrifying. "It's over. Tonight." The air felt heavier, charged like the moments before thunder splits the sky. Travis's jaw tightened, his bravado slipping like sand through his fingers. Monica remained frozen in the corner, clutching her glass so tightly her knuckles whitened. The storm Daniel had promised was no longer approaching. It was here. The room felt like it was closing in on itself. The glow from the tablet's screen faded to black, but the weight of what it had revealed lingered heavy in the air. Daniel stood rigid, his eyes fixed on Travis, while Lily clutched the device to her chest like it was her only shield. Travis's smirk was gone, his lips pressed into a thin line, jaw flexing as if grinding down the truth itself. He paced once across the living room, then stopped suddenly, his voice sharp. "You think anyone's going to believe that junk? You think a couple of shaky videos prove anything?" Daniel's tone was calm, but it cut deeper than shouting ever could. "They prove enough. They prove what you are." Travis's eyes narrowed, flicking toward Monica. "Tell him, babe. Tell him this isn't what it looks like." Monica froze, clutching the untouched glass of water in her hand. Her eyes darted between Daniel and Travis, her lips parting but no words forming. Finally, she muttered, It's complicated." Daniel's laugh was bitter, hollow. "Complicated? Watching your daughter crawl across the floor like an animal while you stood there? That's not complicated. That's betrayal." Monica's shoulders sagged, shame flashing across her face, but she didn't argue. She didn't defend Lily. And that silence was worse than any excuse. Travis, emboldened by her lack of protest, stepped closer. His voice lowered, sharper now like a blade. "You don't scare me, Daniel. You think you could just come back here and take control? No, this is my house now. My rules." Daniel straightened, his frame towering. "This house may not be mine anymore, but my daughter is. And if you ever lay a hand on her again, if you ever so much as breathe in her direction," his voice broke off, the fury inside him barely contained. Lily pressed her face into Daniel's side, her body trembling. He rested a steady hand on her back, grounding her even as his own anger threatened to consume him. Travis sneered, but there was something in his eyes now, a flicker of doubt, of unease. He masked it quickly with arrogance. "Go ahead, call the cops. Let's see how far that gets you. Monica knows they'll believe her over you. You're just the absent dad who shows up when it's convenient." The words stung because they weren't entirely false. Daniel had been gone for months, working to provide. He hadn't seen what Lily endured until now. That guilt pressed against his ribs like a vice. Monica finally spoke, her voice thin. "Daniel, maybe you should leave. Before this gets worse." Daniel turned slowly toward her, his expression a mix of disbelief and disgust. "Worse? It's already worse. And you let it happen." Her face crumpled, but she didn't step forward. She didn't fight for Lily. She just stayed rooted in place, as though paralyzed by her own choices. Daniel's heart ached, not just from betrayal, but from the realization that Lily had been left alone in this house, trapped between silence and cruelty. He crouched again, looking his daughter in the eyes. His voice softened, steady. "We're leaving. Right now." Her eyes widened, relief flooding them. But before she could speak, Travis moved. He stepped forward, blocking the doorway, arms spread wide like a wall of arrogance. "You're not taking her anywhere." Daniel rose slowly, every muscle in his body taut, his fists clenching. For a heartbeat, the two men stood inches apart, the air crackling with the threat of violence. Travis's smirk returned, weaker now but still defiant. You walk out with her, and I'll make sure you never see her again. I'll bury you in court. Monica's on my side. Aren't you, babe? The silence that followed was deafening. Monica didn't answer. Her eyes flicked to Lily, then back to the floor. She didn't nod, didn't speak, but her silence was its own confession. Daniel felt the betrayal sink deeper. Not only was Travis dangerous, but Monica was willing to let him win. He turned to Lily, her wide eyes searching his. And in that moment, Daniel realized something. This wasn't going to be solved by reason. It wasn't going to be solved by begging Monica to choose right. This was a fight, and it had only just begun. The standoff at the doorway stretched into a suffocating silence. Daniel's chest rose and fell in slow, deliberate breaths, his fists tight at his sides. Travis's smirk was back, smug and poisonous, his body planted firmly in front of the exit like a gatekeeper. Behind them, the old wall clock ticked louder and louder, each second striking like a hammer in Daniel's skull. He wanted to end it here, to shove Travis aside, to take Lily and never look back. But the truth burned in his mind. Travis wasn't bluffing. In court, Monica's word would outweigh his. One accusation, one twisted story, and custody could slip from his hands forever. Daniel looked down at Lily. Her small face pressed into his side, but her eyes flicked upward, studying the room with a sharpness he hadn't noticed before. There was fear in her gaze, yes, but there was also something else. Calculation. Travis leaned closer, lowering his voice into a taunting growl. Face it, you've got nothing. No job that keeps you home, no custody, no proof. Daniel cut him off, his voice like steel. I have enough. Travis faltered just slightly, then scoffed. Yeah? Then why are you still here? Daniel didn't answer. He wasn't sure himself. Every instinct screamed to act, but he held back for Lily. For proof. For the chance to make sure this monster never came near her again. Monica finally moved, stepping halfway between them. Her voice trembled, but her words cut sharp. Daniel, don't make things harder. Travis is right. The court will side with us. If you take her now, they'll say you kidnapped her. Daniel stared at her in disbelief. Us? You're really standing with him? After everything you saw? Monica's jaw tightened, but her eyes slid away. He's been helping. We need him. I can't do this alone. Lily flinched at those words. She didn't speak, didn't cry, but Daniel felt her grip tighten around his hand. That silence from his daughter spoke volumes. It wasn't the first time she'd heard Monica choose Travis over her. Daniel crouched, meeting Lily's eyes. His voice softened to a whisper only she could hear. Hold on a little longer. I'll get us out of this. She nodded faintly, but when he turned back to face Travis, Lily's hand slipped from his grip. Daniel didn't notice. She had reached in her bag, her small fingers trembling as they unlocked the tablet once more. The glow of the screen lit her face faintly under the couch's shadow. With quick, practiced movements, she opened a folder. Videos, recordings, pictures, all labeled and time-stamped. She scrolled past the ones Daniel had already seen and tapped a button at the corner of the screen. Send. Her tiny finger hovered for only a second before pressing down. The files uploaded silently into the night, slipping beyond the walls of the house. Travis continued his tirade, waving his arms as he spoke. You think anyone cares about some brat's sob story? She's exaggerating. She's spoiled. I'm the one who's teaching her to be strong. Daniel's eyes darkened. By tearing her down? By selling the things she needs to survive. Travis smirked, stepping closer, but Lily's attention wasn't on them anymore. She watched the progress bar on her screen crawl forward. 25%, 40%, 60%. Her heart pounded so hard she thought they'd hear it. She kept the tablet tilted away, hidden beneath the blanket draped over her legs. Strong people don't crawl, Travis sneered. They fight. They survive. And that's what I'm teaching her. Lily whispered under her breath, words so faint only she could hear them. I'm surviving too. The upload hit 100%. A faint ding sounded. She froze, breath caught in her throat, eyes wide. But the adults didn't notice. Their battle raged too loud. Daniel took a step forward, his voice ice cold. One day soon, Travis, you're going to answer for every word you've said. Every bruise. Every tear. And when that day comes, you won't be laughing. Travis smirked, but his eyes darted nervously toward Monica, who stood pale and silent against the wall. He's bluffing, Travis muttered, more to himself than anyone else. But Lily knew he wasn't bluffing. She also knew her father didn't realize the storm she had already unleashed. She clutched the tablet tighter, a strange mix of fear and resolve in her small chest. She had sent the truth into the world, to people who could make it matter, to people who could make him disappear. And for the first time, even as the shouting around her grew louder, Lily felt a quiet strength inside herself. She wasn't waiting for rescue anymore. She was making it happen. The night dragged heavy, thick with unspoken threats. Travis finally stepped away from the doorway, muttering curses under his breath as he grabbed his phone from the counter. You think you've got me cornered? You don't know a damn thing, he spat, thumbing at the screen. Daniel kept his stance steady, every muscle coiled tight, but his eyes flicked toward Lily. She sat quietly on the couch, tablet hidden under the blanket. Her face was pale, her breathing shallow, but behind those wide eyes there was something sharper, resolve. Travis barked into his phone, his voice echoing through the house. Yeah, it's me. Listen, I got the cash from that deal. Don't worry about it, he froze, frowning. What do you mean you already know? Who told you that? Daniel's eyes narrowed. Travis's face shifted from arrogance to confusion, then to something closer to fear. What the hell do you mean, there's video? Travis snapped, his voice cracking. He turned his back, lowering his voice, but Daniel still caught fragments. I don't know who know, it wasn't me, damn it. He hung up abruptly, his hand trembling slightly as he shoved the phone into his pocket. He turned back toward the room, his bravado slipping. His eyes scanned the space, sharp, suspicious. Daniel didn't move, didn't speak. He only studied the cracks forming in Travis's armor. Travis's gaze landed on Lily. For a moment, his expression twisted. Narrowed eyes, clenched jaw, the look of a man piecing together a puzzle he didn't like. He took a step toward her. Lily pressed closer to her father, gripping the tablet under the blanket. Daniel instantly shifted, blocking Travis's path. Stay where you are, Daniel warned, his voice low, steady. Travis sneered, but his eyes darted again to Lily. She's not as helpless as she looks, is she? His words dripped with suspicion. What did you do, huh? What did you send? Lily's lip trembled, but she didn't speak. Her silence was enough. Travis's face reddened. He lunged forward, but Daniel's hand shot out, slamming against his chest, forcing him back against the wall. The sound echoed like thunder in the small house. You so much as breathe in her direction again, and I swear, Daniel's voice cracked, his rage barely contained. Travis shoved him off, panting, his smirk returning though it wavered at the edges. You think you're the hero here? You've got no idea what kind of mess you've made. Monica finally stirred, her voice frantic. What's going on? Travis, what did they say? Travis rounded on her, his words sharp. Somebody leaked it. The videos, Monica. All of it. They're out there now. Monica's face drained of color. The glass in her hand slipped and shattered on the floor. She covered her mouth, eyes wide, but no sound came out. Daniel's eyes widened too, though for a different reason. He turned to Lily. She looked back at him, her expression small but steady. She didn't deny it. She didn't even look guilty. For the first time, Daniel realized she wasn't waiting for him to save her. She had already set everything in motion. Travis's phone buzzed again in his pocket. He yanked it out, glanced at the screen, and swore under his breath. Damn it. He shoved the phone back in, grabbing his jacket from the chair. Where are you going? Monica demanded, her voice shrill. Travis didn't answer. He yanked open the front door, his movements frantic now, no longer the smug strut of a man in control. His steps echoed down the porch and into the night. The door slammed behind him, rattling the frame. Silence fell. Monica stood frozen, her face pale as ash. Daniel turned slowly to Lily. She held the tablet in her lap, her small hands trembling, but her gaze steady, almost defiant. He crouched in front of her, his voice gentle but shaken. "Lily, what did you do?" Her lips parted, her whisper breaking the silence. "I made sure he couldn't hurt me anymore." The weight of her words sank deep into Daniel's chest. His daughter, his little girl, had done what he hadn't. She had pulled the trigger without ever lifting a weapon. And now, whatever storm was waiting outside, it was already too late to stop it. The slam of the front door still echoed through the house when silence fell like a heavy curtain. Travis was gone, swallowed by the night. But the emptiness he left behind wasn't relief. It was a ticking clock, each second heavier than the last. Daniel's chest rose and fell in steady, deliberate breaths as he crouched in front of Lily. Her small face was pale but unflinching. The tablet rested in her lap, the faint glow of the screen casting shadows across her cheeks. "You sent it out," Daniel said softly, almost to himself. Lily nodded, her voice a whisper. "He said nobody would believe me, so I made sure they would." Daniel's throat tightened. Pride and fear warred inside him. His daughter's courage was undeniable, but the weight of what she had unleashed pressed hard. Whoever had received those files, they wouldn't let it sit quietly. Travis hadn't run because of guilt. He had run because he knew consequences were already on their way. Behind them, Monica moved suddenly, pacing, her heels clicking against the floor. She pressed her hands against her temples, muttering under her breath. Finally, she snapped, her voice sharp. "Do you realize what you've done? You've ruined everything." Daniel turned slowly toward her. His eyes were cold, sharper than a blade. "Everything? You call protecting her ruin?" Monica spun, her face red with fury, but her voice cracked with something deeper, fear. "You don't understand. Travis has people. He owes money, serious money. Those videos don't just make him look bad. They make us look like we're part of it. Do you think they'll just come for him?" Daniel's fists clenched at his sides. "Us? Don't you dare pretend you're a victim in this. You watched. You let him sell her crutches. You stood there while he mocked her. Don't you dare put yourself in the same category as her." Monica flinched, her eyes glassy but defiant. "You left, Daniel. You weren't here. I did what I had to. Travis kept the roof over our heads. He kept the bills paid. I didn't have a choice." Lily's small voice cut through the storm, soft but devastating. "You always had a choice, Mom." The words silenced the room. Monica's lips parted, but no defense came. She looked at her daughter, the child she was supposed to protect, and found only truth staring back at her. Daniel's jaw tightened. "She chose you over him, Monica, and you chose him over her." For the first time, Monica's facade cracked completely. She staggered back, her shoulders slumping, tears welling but never falling. "You don't know what it's like to be alone, to have nothing." Daniel's voice thundered, low but relentless. "I know what it's like to fight for your child. And you didn't." The old clock ticked louder, louder, like it was counting down to something inevitable. Lily clutched her tablet tighter, her eyes never leaving her mother. "I didn't want you to pick him," she whispered. "I just wanted you to pick me." Those words struck harder than anything else. Monica staggered back as if physically hit. Her knees weakened, her hand clutching the doorframe for balance. Outside, the faint sound of tires screeched on asphalt. A car door slammed. Voices shouted in the distance. Daniel's head snapped toward the window, instincts flaring. The storm had arrived. He turned back to Lily, crouching low, his voice urgent but steady. "Stay with me. No matter what happens, stay with me." She nodded, her small hand gripping his wrist tightly. Monica's voice trembled. "Daniel, what if they come here? What if?" He cut her off, his eyes like steel. "You wanted to live with the choices you made? Then you'll face them. But she's coming with me." The first heavy knock rattled the front door. The sound reverberated through the house like a warning bell. Travis wasn't the only one with something to fear. And tonight, the truth wasn't just out. It was coming straight for them. The pounding on the front door shook the frame, each blow sharper than the last. The sound carried through the walls like the heartbeat of something dark forcing its way in. Lily clutched Daniel's sleeve, her small fingers trembling, but her eyes never left the door. Monica stumbled back toward the kitchen, panic splashing across her face. Daniel, do something. Don't just stand there. Daniel's stance was solid, unshaken, his voice low and steady. Whoever they are, they're not here for me. Another knock, this one louder, followed by a voice muffled through the wood. Travis Hale, open up. We know you're in there. Lily flinched at the sound, pressing into her father's side. Daniel bent slightly, his voice a whisper meant only for her. Did you send it to them? Her lips parted, hesitation flickering across her face. She didn't answer right away. Her silence was confirmation enough. Daniel's chest tightened. Pride and dread tangled inside him. His little girl had pulled the strings that brought danger straight to their doorstep. The knocking turned to pounding fists, then silence. Heavy footsteps shuffled across the porch. A second voice growled, lower, more threatening. If he doesn't come out, we'll find another way in. Monica's hands shook as she gripped the counter. Her voice cracked with terror. They'll tear this house apart. They'll kill him. And if they think we're hiding him. Daniel cut her off, his tone sharp. Then you'd better hope they believe the truth. But Monica's face paled. They won't. They'll think we knew. They'll think I knew. The irony twisted Daniel's gut. She had known. She had stayed silent. And now the silence she had chosen might consume her. The door rattled again, harder this time. Lily's small voice broke through, trembling but clear. Dad, they won't find him here. He's gone. Daniel turned to her, confusion furrowing his brow. What do you mean? Her eyes flicked to the tablet in her lap. She hesitated, then whispered, I didn't just send the videos. I sent where he'd be. I knew he'd run. Daniel's breath caught. The realization slammed into him. Lily hadn't simply exposed Travis. She had directed his enemies straight to him. The weight of her small shoulders seemed heavier now, too heavy for a child. Yet her eyes, though wet with fear, held something older, something sharper. Daniel knelt in front of her, gripping her shoulders gently. Lily, why? Her whisper came like a blade, quiet but cutting. Because you promised to protect me. But you weren't here. I had to protect myself. The words shattered him. He pulled her close, holding her tightly. But the truth couldn't be unspoken. Outside, tires screeched. More voices shouted, distant but moving fast. The night was unraveling around them. Monica collapsed into a chair, her face buried in her hands. This is all falling apart, she muttered. Everything. Daniel stood again, his voice cold as stone. No, this is what you built, and now it's burning down. The house grew silent again, too silent. Even the voices outside seemed to fade, replaced by the hum of tension crawling through the walls. Lily's tablet buzzed suddenly, vibrating in her lap. She looked down. A notification glowed on the screen. Upload successful. Files forwarded to authorities. Daniel's eyes widened. It wasn't just the enemies who had seen the videos. The police had them too. The final piece clicked into place. Travis wasn't just hunted by the men he owed. He was hunted by the law. And all of it, every step, was orchestrated by the small girl, now clutching the tablet to her chest. The heavy knock came again, but this time it wasn't violent. It was firm, commanding. This is Detective Ramirez. Open the door. Monica's head shot up, eyes wide with horror. The police? No, if they see those videos. Daniel stepped forward, his hand resting protectively on Lily's shoulder. His voice was calm, steady, unyielding. Good. Let them. The storm had arrived, but not the way anyone expected. And when the door opened, the truth would finally be forced into the light. The pounding on the door ceased. For a heartbeat, the house was silent again. Then a steady voice broke through. Police. Open the door. Daniel straightened, his frame rigid but calm. He glanced back at Lily, her small hands still gripping the tablet, her eyes wide, yet unblinking. He gave her a reassuring nod before stepping to the door. Monica leapt up, panic written across her face. Don't. If they see what's on there, if they think I... Daniel cut her off, his voice sharp. Then you'll finally answer for what you let happen. He turned the knob. The door opened, revealing Detective Ramirez, tall and broad-shouldered, his expression unreadable beneath the porch light. Two uniformed officers flanked him. "Mr. Cole," Ramirez asked, his tone brisk but not unkind. "We received footage tonight. Evidence of child neglect and abuse. We need to speak with everyone in this house." Daniel stepped aside, his voice firm. "Then come in. You'll want to start with her." He nodded toward Monica. Monica's face drained of color. "Daniel, please," she whispered, but he didn't look at her. Ramirez's gaze shifted, landing on Lily. He softened slightly, kneeling to her level. "You sent us the recordings?" Lily hesitated, clutching the tablet tighter. Her eyes flicked to her father, then back to the detective. Finally, she nodded. "I didn't want him to hurt me anymore." Ramirez's expression hardened with resolve. "You did the right thing, sweetheart. You were very brave." For the first time that night, Lily's lips curved into the faintest, fragile smile. The detective stood again, addressing Daniel. "Travis Hale is already wanted for outstanding charges. With what your daughter sent, we'll make sure he's finished." Outside, the distant wail of sirens grew louder, fading as they passed. Somewhere out there, Travis was running. But this time, nowhere would be far enough. Monica collapsed into a chair, her hands trembling. "You don't understand," she pleaded, her voice cracking. "I didn't mean for it to get this bad. I thought he'd stay. I thought he'd help." Daniel turned to her, his voice low but heavy with years of restrained anger. "You thought wrong. You chose him. Again and again. And tonight, our daughter chose herself." Monica's face crumpled, tears spilling at last, but no one moved to comfort her. The officers took her statement, their pens scratching against paper, but Daniel's focus never left Lily. She sat curled on the couch, her legs tucked under her, clutching the tablet like a shield. She looked so small, yet the truth was undeniable. She had carried the weight no child should ever bear. When the questioning ended, Ramirez approached Daniel one last time. "We'll be in touch. For now, keep her close. She's safe tonight." Daniel nodded, his voice steady. "She will be. Always." The officers left, the door closing behind them. The house sank into quiet once more, but it was a different quiet now. Not heavy with fear, but with the echoes of what had been exposed. Daniel sat beside Lily, pulling her gently into his arms. She leaned against him, her breathing steadying at last. "Daddy," she whispered. "Yes, sweetheart. Did I do something bad?" His throat tightened. He kissed the top of her head, his voice breaking. "No, you did what you had to. You were braver than anyone should have to be." Her small hand reached for his, fingers curling around his calloused knuckles. "I just wanted him to stop." Daniel held her tighter, eyes burning. "And now he will. Forever." The two of them sat there in the dim light, the broken pieces of the house around them. The weight of the night still heavy, but no longer suffocating. Monica remained in the shadows, silent, broken by her choices. She had lost more than Travis. She had lost the last fragile thread connecting her to her daughter. But Daniel and Lily, though scarred, though changed, had found something stronger in the fire of betrayal. They had found each other again. And as the clock ticked steadily toward dawn, Daniel knew one thing with absolute certainty. No matter what came next, his daughter would never crawl again.